So I've been living with this Gen 2 S160 GS300 for about a year now, and I think it's time to give it a thorough owner's review. So when the GS lineup came out back in the early 90s, 91, the S140 Gen 1, it was designed to compete in a very competitive market, which was the rear-wheel drive mid-size sedan. And because that market was very competitive in Europe and etc., the very first GS was designed by Ital Giugiaro, which is European and Italian. So after the Gen 1, the Gen 2 came along, and this is the Gen 2 S160, or affectionately known as the big body. And it's very distinctive because it has quad taillights and as well as quad headlights. Still not very sure about the styling. Very 90s look, if you ask me. And during this era of Lexus, they were just establishing their brand. So this was a time that they had like double logos. They have the L and they have to have the script. And during this era as well, they were trying to do the clean design, which is to make the car as slippery as possible. So here, when they were sold in North America, they don't even have physical aerial antennas. So the antenna is embedded on the rear windshield. And same thing with the wipers, they tuck them away underneath the cowling there. You can't even see them unless you select it into like a winter mode, which you could flick them up. So yeah, I've been living with this for about a year now, and it's a very good car for what it is. Mind you, the good part about this segment of Lexus is that it's very popular among people who like to modify their cars. In Japan, they have what you call the VIP, which they drop the car really low to the ground and they fit it with big rims and etc. Mine, I came to the route with the factory period correct accessories. So I switched out my fog lights to yellow ones. They're glass, by the way. They're not the original accessory because those like cost a fortune. So I just got some reproduction. Still yellow, and like I said, they're glass. Very cool. Adds another factor to the car, coolness. So when the S160 GS lineup came out, it had 4 engine options worldwide. And here in North America, we had 3 engine options. So the total engines that they provided, Toyota provided, they had 2 inline 6s, 1 naturally aspirated, and then the second one is turbocharged. Well, twin turbo actually. And those inline 6s are known as the 2JZ engines, which is very popular among tuners, especially the turbocharged variant. Unfortunately, here in North America, we never got the turbocharged variant because during that time, the customers or the people who buy these types of cars, they didn't really appreciate turbocharged engines. They preferred the V8s. Hence why Toyota or Lexus came out with the 1UZ FE, which was a 4-liter V8, and the 3UZ 4.3 V8, as one of the last engines for this body style. So when the S160 came out, it was back in 1997, and they made them till 2005. This particular model, mine, is an 05 model year, so it's the last year, and it has the revised trims in it. It's what they call like a facelift. So the things that they changed during that refresh is the taillights, the position of the indicators. Instead of having it in the middle, they have it there in the bottom, and a couple other trims. I believe some chromes, and for I believe a year or so, or 2 years into the last productions, 04 to 05, they came out with the sport design, which had the smoke headlights, had some design features with the fender, and a little bit of deck lid spoiler in the back, something like that. Anyhow, the styling is very, very 90s, and I believe this body style was designed to compete with the E39 BMW and the W210 Mercedes, which actually looks quite similar to this one. They both have quad headlights. And for a little bit, back in 97, when it first came out, the V8 model, according to Toyota, was the fastest sedan for a couple of months when it came out, and then the E39 M5 came, and that was that. So that segment. That's just an interesting tip, that the V8 was the fastest for a couple of months. So yeah, living with this car for a whole year. I put around 20,000 miles in it. I got it when it just clicked over to 100,000 miles. Now it's at 120. Just do regular service on it. Been trouble free. I did the timing belt service right around 10,000 miles ago. That was a bit of a pain. Hurt my wallet a little bit, but hey, it's one of the preventative maintenance that you have to do on these. So mine is equipped with the 2JZ engine. I'll go show you guys. Inline 6. Solid thumping doors. And here it is. So not much to see here because of the engine cover and everything, but that's your intake plenum over there. So inline 6, 2JZ, very popular amongst the tuners. That's how it looks. It's a bit crowded because of the engine cover, which covers most of the intake ductwork. And this one has a very interesting cold air package. It has a duct intake coming from the, well, actually behind the grill, and it S's here to this box, which I guess keeps the air filter clean and cool. So in a sense, it is a cold air package. Very interesting. And a lot of people take this off to make a little bit of intake noise, so you just have this directly ductwork over there. So in Japan, the S160 body style was equipped with 2 engines, I believe. So they had this, the NA inline 6 2J, and they had the turbo GTE variant of the 2J. I believe they call them Aristos in Japan. The S300 was the NA version of that, and the V300 was the turbocharged version. And I believe the V300s are also equipped with rear wheel active steering. So here's the key, by the way. Very typical late 90s, early 2000s Lexus Toyota key. Mind you, the downside of having this plastic key is that they're a bit brittle here. It's a common known issue with these keys. This part over here, if you sit on it or put a little bit of pressure, it breaks and snaps off. Although these days you could get replacement keys at any online stores, which is pretty cool. No need to go to the dealer for that, as long as you have the shank. So here's the trunk. I'll show you guys. Yeah, please excuse my crate of many things. So yeah, you have your first aid kit there. Very decent space. The only downside of this trunk is that it has this hump over here, because the car's rear wheel drive, and I believe underneath there is, you know, the gubbins for it, etc. The rear end or the gas tank too is somewhat in the space. And one of the downsides is that, again, it doesn't have a ski hatch. It doesn't even have that, and the seats don't fold down. So if you have a longer item, you're pretty much out of luck. You can transport it here with your GS. Yeah, but overall, with a few bags, overnight bags, it swallows it up real good. You know, when you pick people up at the airport, you have like 2-3 bags, medium size. It fits well. And that's your escape latch, by the way. So, glow in the dark. So yeah, let's get inside the cabin. The rear. So let's sit inside. So you could hear the door, very solid thump doors. So sitting here in the back seat, it's very typical for a late 90s, early 2000s car. The pillars are still reasonably thin, you know, so you could see all 4 corners in the car very easily, especially when you're driving. Nowadays, the car designs have these thick pillars, and it's very hard to see out of. You have these huge, annoying blind spots. Oh yeah, and the trim in the back is the same as the trim in the front. You know, you have this nice wood trim made by Yamaha, because I believe they have that partnership with Toyota industry. The Yamaha, you know, the piano and musical instrument maker, they make the wood, and Lexus contracted them to put them in the cars. I have leather here. Very nice seats. Only downside is that when it gets hot, it's very difficult to get cool. You just gotta pump the air conditioning. And here in the rear, which I like about the feature for this car, is that you have the vents. That's pretty cool. So when you have passengers, they just flick that switch up if they want to. They get air here in the back. And one throwback feature right here is that you got ashtrays. It's pretty cool. I like these. So you can have a proper smoke in the back of your GS, like one of them Japanese guys. So yeah, the VIP guys, they put some I believe curtains here, the white ones and the lace ones. They put it on the seats. And I know for a fact in Japan they have a different trim level for the car, right? The Aristo, they have a a non-leather seat version, which was pretty cool. Here in North America, we only got the leather seats. Different colors, obviously. Mine's finished off with the, I believe, cream or light tan. So yeah, let's sit in the front. So my car has a boring color combination. As you can see, it's obviously pearl white on the outside, very typical for that age. And then you have this cream light interior, or very, very light tan. Yeah, so not bad for 120,000 miles, 05 model. It was in good condition. It was a one owner. And a few modifications that I put. I switched out the gear knob. I wanted something different, so I put this steel one. Or actually this one's aluminum. It gets very hot though on a summer's day, you know, first world problems. So I like that one. I like that exotic look. So yeah, here again the wood trim continues. You have your heated seats. Mine's equipped with heated seat. And then the very nice storage that I like, double storage. You have the first level here, and then the second level there. Door cubbies are reasonable for your maps. And you lock them. Glove box. So in the glove box you have the CD changer. Remember those? CD changer. Still have them. Still have the original radio, which I like. It's very decent. I only listen to FM and AM anyway. I like the radio stations here in Northern California. You have tweeters here. Both sides, obviously. Speakers. Four corners of the car. And you have this. This one's for the trunk, by the way, so you can lock your trunk, and I guess you give the keys to the valet. You give them the valet key, and they won't have access to your glove box or your trunk. So I'll show you the instrument binnacle. One distinctive feature of this model S160 is that it's equipped with the electroluminescent white gauges, which is very, very legible, and I quite like the fonts on it. Very Japanese, you know, clean, simple, easy to read, even on highlight conditions, like when it's really hot, and then you even have this open, the sunshade open, you can still see your instruments rather well. It's pretty cool. So I'll start up the car and we'll drive it, and I'll show you more of the features. There you go. Yeah, that's the handbrake release right here, by the way. And all four window switches are auto, which is very cool. So I'll mount the camera and we'll go for a drive. So before we get to driving, I let the AC pump a bit more, so it's not so hot here in the cabin. Set it up to 65 degrees. That's the HVAC controller. Dual zone this thing, which is very cool for its age. You get to have dual zone for you and your passenger. It's outside air temperature, very hot actually. Radio there, and yeah, the shifter. This is one of my favorite features of this car. The shifter itself, it makes a click noise, a very quality feel. That's why I decided to put like a different knob on it, just to, I guess, complement the sound, whatnot. So I put it in drive. You have a 5-speed automatic, and if you put it in manual mode, I believe that's what M stands for, you could shift. It's basically like paddle shifters, but instead of having paddles, you have buttons. And yeah, you have buttons left and right. And so the front is to shift down, and the buttons in the back is to shift up. For me, to avoid confusion when using the manual mode, I use my right finger for shifting up and my left fingers for shifting down. So basically it's like the paddle shifters of today. You know, here in the right you shift up, and then here in the left you shift down. That's just for me, for my driving style, so I avoid hitting the wrong button. So immediately, once you set off in the GS, you're instantly greeted with this ambience of quietness, civilized, soft but not too soft ride. Yeah, and then the touch of the buttons, you know, the stalks. If you're familiar with Toyota products of this era, is that once you notice the stalks, they're quite different from any other Toyota cars. I believe the GS and the LS shared the turn signal and the wiper stalks, which is pretty cool. It's an interesting tidbit. So yeah, like I said, this car was designed to compete with the mid-size rear-wheel drive German sedans. On the BMW side, you have the E39, and on the Mercedes side, I believe you have the W210. And I've driven an E39 5 Series, not M5, you know, automatic gearbox. I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago. And comparing that to this, that one's very, very much more dynamic to drive. In terms of sportiness, that's a lot better. Interesting wise, that is, you know, much more interesting than this. But the GS, what it gives you is that you have that compromise of a little bit of sportiness. Because the thing about the GS is that, the thing about this is that it's one step above the Camry segment, which Lexus sold as well, the ES300. I had an ES300 third generation for almost 2 years. I've driven that, did road trips on that. And what I noticed from the ride, this one rides a little bit stiffer, but not uncomfortable stiff compared to the ES. The ES was very wallowy. This one isn't that wallowy. It has that solidness to it once it starts going over the bumps. And once you sit in this cabin, you know, the driving position is very great. I remember the ES, once you're kind of sitting on top of it instead of sitting in it. This one, you're kind of like blended. Much more driver focus, as they say. And I guess that's the whole point of the GS. Driver oriented. Yeah, you have the paddles if you want to have fun. There you go, very smooth ride. No wonder the rappers of the 90s, you know, they rap about Lexuses, because for the money, it delivered luxury. It was boring, but, you know, it did the job. I still get bored from time to time. But for everyday commute, you know, for everyday commute, I think it's much more interesting than getting a new Corolla or a new Civic. You know what I mean? Yeah. Those things have more feature than this. Yeah, I'll give you that. But if you want something like a throwback and save money for a little bit, get a good one of these, you know. It could be the V8 version if you want, but, you know, it'd be heavy on fuel. Yeah, it's fun. We'll take it on the highway. Yeah. Comfortable commute. I do ride around 280, 290 miles a week, and I average around, the highest I average is around 20 miles per gallon. I know it's quite, you know, it's not, that's not acceptable by today's standards on newer cars, but to me, my driving style, I don't really hypermile. I go whatever. I sometimes put the hammer down on on-ramps. You know, I enjoy myself when I drive. From time to time, I drive enthusiastically within that commute period. So that's why I average 19 to 20, which is fine. Fine with that. I put premium high octane on this one, by the way. Here in Northern California, we only get 91 octane. And I suggest you do that if you have a 2JZ, because 2JZ is high compression. You can still 84. You can still put 84 in it, but you won't optimize the performance. And what I've noticed is that once I started putting 91 octane in it, I actually save trips to the gas station because it's much more efficient running wise. So yeah, we'll put it in 4th gear right now, and I'll give it a little bit of gas here. Yeah, there you go. And then shift it to 5th gear by the there you go, it gets up and go, it merges in the freeway. It's fun. Exit here again. And here again, put it in manual mode from 5th gear to 4th, downshift, helps with the braking. And if you want, you can put it in 3rd gear, even more engine brake. Save your brake pads, as they say. Yeah. Probably my next modification for this car. I've done with the looks. I'm happy. I've achieved what I like in terms of the looks. All I wanted really was those fog lights. After that, I'll put an exhaust, and surely I'll feature it again in this channel. But yeah, overall driving on this one, you know, just typical Lexus of the era. Civilized, quiet, lovely. I think this is that's the definition of the GS, you know. It's a little, just a little bit sportier than your ES. It's not gonna win you races, especially with the other German ones, you know. But it's dependable, hey. Yeah, 226 horsepower is good enough. Yeah, I hope you enjoy my owner's review of my very own GS300. That concludes this video, and once again, this is Motoring 90. Hope you liked it. You guys drive safe.